Morning, all. All right, so normally I would do either a preview or news of the day. I did the preview last night, news of the day. I can wait. I'm not that excited about the news right now, so I'm just going to leave that where it is for right now. Yeah. Anyways, that being said, there's MVPs, and then to me, there's the guys who might be a most valuable player, but they also happen to be the most exciting or the most the one that's most likely to get you to your feet. Now, this is absolutely subjective, completely subjective, and just from watching 32 teams, from watching every game that I can, and watching as much of every game that I can, these are the players that, to me, are and again, you can qualify this as an MVP, but in some cases, they're not. And in some cases, I'm straight out saying they're not the MVP necessarily. But when they're on the ice, it's exciting. It's fun to watch. And so you're going to see some very predictable names on this list. You're going to see some that I don't think are as predictable. So these are the 32, because Seattle's involved in this too. You're in this. 32 players that I think are kind of the engine that runs the team. The guy that gets on the ice for that boost of energy, or just for that continual, really, really exciting, fun play to watch. And I'm going to say straight out, some of these teams were really tough. I had to look through the list, and I had to and when we get to those teams that were tough, I will admit that. So we'll start with Tampa. Of the players who've played this year, it's Stamkos. And there's some debate about how well Stamkos is playing and how much he's going to be able to keep this up. If he played 82 games, and he's already missed one this year, but if he played 82 games, he's on pace for 99.5 points. So that's pretty good. And Stamkos looks like the old Stamkos. And it's like, everybody's out, Kucherov and Point and all that, and it's like it falls to him. So maybe when everybody's in the lineup, he doesn't feel like he has to be the hero, and maybe it falls back. Maybe he gets a little bit less in the way of what his responsibilities are. But, man, he's been fantastic this year. A lot of fun to watch. Calgary. I don't think he's been their MVP, but Matthew Tkachuk has been, I think, the most exciting player. And he's the guy, too, that if you need to turn the game's energy level up a little bit, well, you put Tkachuk on the ice. It's also, I'm going to say straight out, Brady is not the one that I picked for Ottawa, although he was close. And for Calgary, you could mention Johnny Gaudreau as being exciting as well. But it's that physical part and the offense as well for Tkachuk that to me says, well, if he's on the ice, it's going to be a more exciting game than when anybody else is. So, again, highly subjective, admitted completely. And you guys can let me know your list, because I think this is kind of a fun one, where I don't think there's a wrong opinion, although people will definitely tell me my opinion's wrong. Minnesota, there's only one. And again, we can have the debate about whether or not Kaprizov is the most valuable player to Minnesota, because Cam Talbot's been great. There are no goaltenders on this list, because goalies make those highlight reel saves. And I think that's for a whole other video. That's for a whole other discussion on which goalies have been, maybe the best and the most surprising and all that. I could do that list as well. I have no problem with that. We're getting up to Christmas, so it's a fun time to start making lists, right? And they're not all about Santa Claus, although I was going to do a video on what teams want for Christmas. Now it would appear they just want a clean test. It's just, yeah, so all that kind of goes out the window. But yeah, Kaprizov, I will do the Christmas one too, though. Kaprizov for me for Minnesota. San Jose, I went back and forth on this one. If you want to argue Logan Couture, good. If you want to argue Erik Karlsson, absolutely. Karlsson's having a huge bounce back year. For me, it's Timo Meier. Timo Meier's playing up to his contract right now. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal throughout most of the season. Very exciting when he's on the ice. And Hurdle's up there too. Like, San Jose's been a lot more fun to watch than I think they have any right being, based on the last couple of seasons. But they've been fun to watch. I don't know if it means playoffs, but yeah, they've been an enjoyable team to watch. Ottawa. For Ottawa, I went back and forth. Like I said, Brady Tkachuk, I was on the fence about. Thomas Chabot's a lot of fun too. Kevin BX's opinion aside. And I think people are getting a little bit too critical on Kevin BX from last night. He has the right to say that Thomas Chabot's having a bad game. But for me, when it comes to Ottawa, Drake Batherson. Batherson's been their most consistent player. He can turn the energy of the game around in favor of the Ottawa Senators, and might be one of the more underrated forwards in the league. He's putting up points. He's playing very well. And again, he might be that guy that if Ottawa's going to make that next step, if they're going to really come out of this rebuild, Batherson could be one of their leaders, sort of like what Larkin's been for Detroit, right? Chicago. This is the thing too. Kane is their best player. He is. Kane's their best player. If we're doing an MVP board, it has to be Kane. But for me, the most exciting player to watch on the team, the one that I think is capable of a lot, is DeBrincat. I think DeBrincat can absolutely be a 50-goal scorer. I still believe that. I've been saying it for years. I've said it with Tarasenko too, though, so grain of salt. But DeBrincat is just so much fun to watch, such an exciting player. And yes, I agree with people who every time that he has one of these big games, you ask yourself, how did he slide to the second round? We all knew what DeBrincat was before that draft, and then he slid to the second round. So, yeah, DeBrincat, fantastic season for him thus far, and he's just so much fun to watch, right? And that's kind of what this list's supposed to be. Anaheim, there's only one for Anaheim, right? So if we're talking about MVPs, there's numerous you could go with, but Zegras is the highlight reel guy right now. He's a lot of fun to watch, and may very well be the one that gets Anaheim back into the playoffs. Not that Drysdale's playing badly. Drysdale is low-key having a pretty good season, too. But, yeah, Zegras is the guy. He has revitalized Sonny Milano, too. Sonny Milano's career wasn't going anywhere fast. He gets to Anaheim, gets paired with Zegras, and it just works. So that's been a fantastic pairing. Speaking of Sonny Milano, his former team, Columbus, with Columbus, I went back and forth on a few guys. I wanted to say Jenner. I end up going with Voracek. I go with Voracek because he's had so many nice setup passes. He's got a lot of assists, right? Only the one goal, but he's got a lot of assists. And so Jenner's not scoring those goals, and Bjorkstrand's not scoring. So the guys who are scoring the goals are on the other end of those passes. And I think Voracek is really the engine for that team when he's on. And again, this is about when this player's on the ice, you notice. And for me with Columbus, I think it's Voracek, although you could argue Bjorkstrand, you could argue Werenski. There are a few players I'm going with Voracek. Dallas. For me, and I mean this as a Dallas fan, it is fantastic to see the way Robertson's developed and frustrating at the same time, because while Robertson and Hintz gets an honorable mention here, they've been great, the veterans have not. So it shows that these guys are really good, and it also highlights that they need more from the veterans. They really do. They're not getting enough from their veteran players. So it's a good news, bad news thing. The good news is Jason Robertson's exciting to watch. The bad news is some of the veterans are not. For Montreal, he got off to a slow start. And every time he's mentioned as, being on the short list for the Olympics, and whether they do or don't go, it doesn't matter. The fact that Suzuki's name's getting mentioned, I think it's a good thing, and I think he's been a lot of fun to watch. But Montreal's had a miserable season. Suzuki got off to a slow start. So his numbers right now are underwhelming. But I still think he's there. As I'm saying in this video, he's the guy who gets that going. He's the guy that stirs the pot. He's the one that, when he's on the ice, I think is the most noticeable. Now, of course, they've got a lot of guys who were hurt, but I'd go with Suzuki. Buffalo. This one surprises me. There are a few surprises. And there are a few guys I could have gone with. If we're going with MVP, I don't think I go with Tage Thompson. I think with MVP, there are a couple of different guys you could talk about with Buffalo. And then you get into sample size, because their goaltenders, Luukkonen's been pretty good. But Thompson has had a remarkable start to the season. Okposo has had a remarkable start to the season as well. If you're not following Buffalo, go ahead, look up their stats. You'll be surprised how many points Okposo has this year. Is he overpaid? Sure. Is he earning some of that money this year? Absolutely. So Thompson for me is the guy because he's already got 10 goals. He's been fun to watch. And this Tage Thompson is the one they were hoping they were getting when they traded for him. Washington. It has to be. There's only one player. It has to be Ovechkin. Honorable mention to Kuznetsov, but it has to be Ovechkin. 752 goals so far. It has to be Ovechkin. There isn't anybody else in Washington. And again, I know Oshie's exciting to watch, but it's Ovi. It really is. It's still Ovi. Vegas. For Vegas, since returning from injury, I know Pacioretty gets all the attention with all the goals, and Pacioretty's been on an amazing run recently, but it's Mark Stone that really makes things work for Vegas, both ends of the ice, tons of assists, more than a point a game. Stone is a lot of fun to watch. He's also very emotional on the ice, which definitely, I think, makes a positive difference. Now, sometimes that emotion can be, towards officials because he feels like he should get a call. But again, he plays the game. He's a very emotional player, and it's that. Pittsburgh's the one that surprises me the most. You would think Sid the Kid, right? No. Not for the whole season. Now, by the end of the year, Sid the Kid's going to be their MVP. And if I was doing MVPs, I'd probably be putting Crosby's name up here, right? They have won 6 in a row. Crosby's part of that. But for me, now, I've always liked Evan Rodriguez. I have no idea where this Evan Rodriguez came from. The one that's scoring goals and points and just the way he's playing this year, he's playing above the ceiling I thought he had. I thought he could be a good 40-point scorer in the NHL. I didn't see a season like this coming for him. It's been fantastic. So for Rodriguez, a lot of fun to watch, and so we'll see how the rest of the season goes for him. I don't expect at the end of the season Rodriguez will be the most exciting. I'm wearing my Teddy Bluger jersey because hard worker, but Teddy Bluger's not the most exciting player on the team. Very hard worker. I appreciate the hard work, thus the Teddy Bluger jersey, but Rodriguez has been a lot of fun to watch. Edmonton. We could argue Draisaitl or McDavid. We could. But you look at McDavid and the way that he can just go, I think I'm going to skate through the whole team. And he does it. We watch a lot of players do it. They get frustrated and they're like, fine, I'll just do this myself. And it always goes down in flames. McDavid does it. He goes through everybody. And he makes it look relatively easy. He's that guy that the coach will look at the rest of the team and go, see what Connor just did? See what he just did? Why aren't the rest of you doing that? Looks pretty easy, doesn't it? Go do it. And the rest of the team's like, we can't do that. Except Leon might be like, I'll give it a try. And he might get it done, right? So, yeah, but McDavid just is so consistent. Almost every game, there's a reason to get up out of your seat and watch one of his plays, really excited, like what's going to happen here. St. Louis. I went back and forth on St. Louis. There are a lot of players. I will agree with a commenter from last night saying that there's a lot of players in St. Louis who are, pretty even. I'm going with Buchnevich. It's between him and Tarasenko for me. And I kind of want to throw Ryan O'Reilly in there, but O'Reilly's not really the flashy player. He's just really competent, good two-way forward, knows how to put the puck in the net, decent point production. But man, Buchnevich has been absolutely... It fits so well in St. Louis. And I think he fits in well in St. Louis in a way that he wouldn't have if he'd stayed with the Rangers. I don't think he'd be having this season if he'd stayed in New York. I think he'd be a secondary player. And in St. Louis, because of injury and everything that's gone on around the team, Buchnevich has had a chance to shine, and he's been great. So, honestly, exciting every shift. And I want to throw an honorable mention to Barbashev. Barbashev is so much fun to watch right now. New Jersey... So, I'm going to give an honorable mention to Bratt because I think Bratt's been good, but it is Dawson Mercer. This kid's going to put up some goals in the NHL. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year this year in all likelihood. I'm just saying, but that's not the end of the world. You don't have to be Rookie of the Year to be the best rookie in your class. So, Mercer, I think long-term is going to be fantastic. And I think he's going to be good, a good two-way forward, dynamic. I think he's going to put up points. I think he's going to be the kind of forward that maybe he'll end up being the forward that a lot of people envision for Hischier. Maybe he'll end up being a Selke guy at some point in his career. But, for me, Mercer's been fantastic. And definitely competent 200-foot player. The Islanders. Islanders are tough because they don't score. Islanders are tough because they don't really have that creative flair. that you'll see with other teams. Notice I'm not saying that it's the players, it's the team, it's the way that they're coached and everything. So it's a little different with the Islanders. Wahlstrom has, I believe it's 8 goals right now. Apologize for the way I wrote that. But Wahlstrom is, I think, the most exciting player they have. And Wahlstrom's the kind of guy, too, that if he was playing in Carolina or if he was playing in Florida, probably would have more goals and points. Probably get a lot more attention as well. I mean, I'm not going to say that Trotz stifles anybody's creativity because Trotz is a winner. And Trotz coached Ovi as well. So it's just the Islanders are not an overly exciting team to play. And that's just their style. That's how it's set up. They're meant to be that way. And so finding a most exciting player, to me, it's Wahlstrom. And I think the potential is huge for him. We'll see whether or not he gets there. An honorable mention to Barzal and Beauvillier, who, while he's not putting the puck in that, Beauvillier's still been getting chances, and now he finally got a goal recently, so maybe it's going to turn things around. Arizona, there's to me, there's one guy. Now, normally, I'd be putting up Chychrun, but I'm putting up Keller. Keller's been great. Tyson Nash will really hype up the Coyotes, rightfully so. He is the color announcer for the broadcasts. I have felt at times over the last couple of years that he has overhyped Keller. This year, he is not. Clayton Keller's been absolutely fantastic and really fun to watch. So, when Arizona wins a game they shouldn't, Clayton Keller's been a part of it. That's how that kind of works, right? And I will say as well that while Chychrun, I worry about him when it comes to the season they're having and what that might do for... Because, again, with younger players, if you go through this absolutely terrible season, what does that do going forward, right? I don't worry about that with Keller. Not based on his play over the last, say, 15 games. He's been fantastic, so... Very exciting player to watch. LA, there were a few I could have picked, but I can't go against Kopitar. Kopitar still, he's the, as I say at the start of this, he's the engine. He's the guy who, when he's out on the ice, makes a huge difference. We've waited for others to step in and become that. And there are players who definitely have that potential, but it's still Kopitar's team. It absolutely is. And I don't know which prospect's going to end up taking his place, but good luck being able to live up to that. That's a lot, right? The 2 cup rings and everything Kopitar's been able to do, and he's still, I think, the most exciting player on that team. For Detroit, it has to be Larkin. Absolutely has to be Larkin. Their captain. This is where the MVP thing comes in, where, yes, Larkin's likely their MVP, like McDavid would be. Not all of these players would necessarily be MVP, but Larkin, it has been a great year for him so far. He has been a huge part of Detroit getting better, and we'll see if he's able to keep that up. It's just been remarkable to watch. Florida was tough. Man, I wanted to put Duclair. I really did. And then I look at all the numbers and everything, and I'm like, well, but like Duclair always seems to have like grade A chances in every game. But honestly, when you look at the overall numbers and everything, and then I think about the games of theirs I watch, it has to be Ekblad. Aaron Ekblad, one of the best kept secrets in the NHL. He has been phenomenal when he's been in there. His plus minus is better than anybody else on the team. His points totals have been very good. His goal totals, he's on pace for about 20 goals. And he is a dynamic player on a very dynamic team. Barkov, Huberdeau, Bennett has been exciting for them at points this season too. They're a team that plays this transition game. They play a very fast, exciting game like Tampa and like Carolina. And there's a reason that these teams have success. I know for Florida it's kind of fallen off over the last couple of weeks. They're still a pretty good team, and I would expect them to turn it around. But Ekblad's going to be a part of it. He's going to be a part of it. Because I think he's... And again, when you get into the MVP talk, I think their MVP is still Barkov. But, yeah, Ekblad for this video. Toronto has to be Matthews. When the Leafs aren't playing very well, Matthews isn't scoring. When the Leafs are playing well, usually that means Matthews is scoring. And Matthews, his goal scoring is a lot of fun to watch. He is underrated as an all-around player. The goal scoring gets a lot of attention. He's a pretty good all-around player. And yeah, I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch. I know there's a lot of hate because he plays in Toronto, but I think he'd be the most popular player on most teams if he'd been drafted anywhere else. He might be the guy who takes over for Ovi when Ovi decides he's not going to be the best goal scorer in the league anymore. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I would think Matthews may very well be the next guy. He's still streaky, but most goal scorers are. So, yeah, Matthews for me with Toronto. Nashville. Nashville's not an exciting team to watch, but Forsberg makes it better. And again, it's sort of like Kaprizov in Nashville. As soon as Forsberg's on the ice, you know. As soon as he's out there, you know, the pace changes, everything in the game changes. And, yeah, you're automatically impressed with whatever Forsberg's doing. Forsberg is a fantastic talent. And, yeah, it's still one of the worst trades in history is the one where Nashville gets him. Nashville really likes it. Washington didn't. And, yeah, all he does is score goals. And just he's so much fun to watch. Boston. So this is kind of what inspired this video anyways. So anybody who's like, who's he going to pick for Boston hasn't been watching recent videos. It's Marchand. Marchand is not, and again, I would say this is where the MVP part intersects. I think he is their MVP, but people will see Bergeron as the MVP, which I understand. But when Marchand's not going, neither are the Bruins. When Marchand's frustrated and he's out there doing whatever crap stupid for the day, these Bruins are losing. And those things are absolutely related. Marchand is, again, I understand all the hate. I do. I completely get it. I absolutely do. But when he is playing at the top of his game and when he's not pulling all that other stuff, he is one of the best players in the game and absolutely one of the most exciting to watch. He uses his low center of gravity to his advantage, sometimes in a way that people don't like. Philadelphia. This one was kind of tough too. But, so Philly gets off to a decent start. Atkinson's a huge part of it. Atkinson goes into this big dive. And so did Philly. Philly started winning games. Atkinson started to score. Atkinson's becoming prominent again. I can't say he disappeared, but Atkinson was a lot less prominent when they were losing games, right? So I think Cam Atkinson's become the engine for Philly, which is interesting because I have Voracek there for Columbus. So again, you might try to argue Giroux, maybe Provorov, right? But for me, it's Atkinson. If things are going well for Philly, Atkinson's probably having a pretty good game. For Seattle, there's a few ways I could go with this, but got to go with Tanev. Eberle's been great. McCann's having a very good year, but it has to be Tanev. For me, it has to be Tanev. Brandon Tanev is and has been one of my favorite players since he came into the league. I think he's great. It's his energy level, it's his work ethic, and yeah, I mean, he does a little bit of everything. The goal scoring's unreliable, but that's kind of what was expected when they picked him up from Pittsburgh. They didn't pick him up as a goal scorer. I think he's provided them exactly what they would have wanted. So for me, it's Brandon Tanev. Vancouver, this one's a tough one, but I think people will agree with me on this for the most part. Because it has to be throughout the season. So as much as the Brock Besser fan in me is like, got to put Besser. No, not for the season. The most consistent, I think, has been Connor Garland. Now, I still don't like the trade. And that's the thing. I can still look at that trade and say, but I can agree, Connor Garland, night in and night out, the effort's there. He gets under the skin of the opponent. He is one of the more exciting players. Höglander would get an honorable mention for me. I kept thinking, is there a way that you could argue Horvat's the most exciting? No, I can't. Horvat is a hard worker, gets a lot of points and some nice goals, but to me, Connor Garland is the one that gets the fans talking the most. He is the one that is exciting night in and night out. And it's not all about points with Garland either, which again is why this video is being done this way rather than MVPs, which is a different argument. Winnipeg. Speaking of which, Kyle Connor. So Kyle Connor, 2 first names, not judging, but he has 2 first names, no last name, not judging. Because now Connor's a first name. Didn't used to be, but now it is, so there we are. Kyle Connor is and has been, I think, the best goal scorer. Now, for most exciting player, I would still put it as Kyle Connor. And yet, Nick Ehlers gets an honorable mention here. Morrissey can be a lot of fun to watch too. But yeah, I'm still going to go with Kyle Connor. Because whether things are going well or going badly, Connor's pretty animated. And again, so's Nick Ehlers. Nick Ehlers, when he's angry, he doesn't hide it at all. So to me, it's Connor, it's Ehlers. I think you can argue either of them. And it's weird because Winnipeg has so many really good forwards. They have some really good defensemen. They have one of the best goalies in the league, and yet they're below the playoff line. I don't understand. I don't get it. New York Rangers, there's only one player. If you're going to talk about an engine for a team, it has to be Panarin. Again, Rangers got off to a mediocre start. So did Panarin. Points-wise, Panarin was playing well. He wasn't getting the bounces. Then he starts getting the bounces. All of a sudden, the Rangers are playing better, and it's Artemi Panarin that's the reason for it. So Panarin's been the engine, and you can argue Fox. You could argue Zibanejad. You could absolutely argue Kreider as well. The Rangers have been a lot of fun to watch. But again, that goes back a couple seasons ago where they were my favorite team to watch. And so, which is different than favorite team. Your favorite team to watch can be one that you don't actually have a positive or negative feeling about. You're just like, I really enjoy watching this team play hockey. They're pretty good at that whole hockeying part of things. So yeah, Panarin's been excellent. Carolina, honorable mention to Svechnikov, honorable mention to HS as well, and Trocheck. But to me, with Carolina, it's Aho. Aho is again, we're getting into underrated players as well. He's there. And while Svechnikov has the highlight reel goals and the highlight reel moves, Aho's pretty highlight reel himself. And a lot of fun. A lot of fun to watch. So Carolina might be the most fun team to watch right now, at least overall this season. But yeah, Aho's been a huge part of that. On the Colorado side, if we were talking about MVP, I'd probably lean towards Rantanen, but Makar. Cale Makar has been dynamic since he first set foot on the ice in the NHL in the playoffs for Colorado a couple seasons back, and has shown absolutely no signs of any trouble getting used to the NHL. He's just fit in right away, and he's already one of the best defensemen, if not the best defenseman in the NHL. That's a whole other discussion for a whole other time, though. Makar's been just dynamic every time he's on the ice. Just so much fun to watch Makar. Sometimes he's a rover. There are times where he's not really doing the whole defenseman thing. But again, that's why, A, usually these guys are pretty fast now, and B, they're usually pretty solid offensively and they're able to cover, or you put somebody with them who can cover for them. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing right through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.